everyone, it's Caitlin and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I make simple and delicious vegan recipes. And today, in the spirit of the holidays, we are making one of my favorite holiday treats, cookies. Actually, I love cookies year round and I've recently been really loving making them just in general. But today I am sharing 5 different vegan cookie recipes with you that are perfect for the holidays. And honestly, I think if you make these and share with someone who isn't vegan, there's no way that they're gonna know that they're plant-based. So let's get right into the recipes. I promise there's something for everyone. First up, we're going to be making some brown butter maple cookies. And yes, you can brown vegan butter. These cookies are a combination of like all of my favorite fall, kind of winter flavors. We're going to start by browning our butter. Now, you can brown any vegan butter that has some form of protein solid in it, or like a protein if you look at the ingredients. I'm using Country Crock here, but Miyoko's will also work. It just needs to have something to brown because that is what typically browns in dairy butter as well. Set the brown butter aside and then we'll work on our dry ingredients. We're going to whisk them all together in a bowl. I have been loving adding just a little bit of cornstarch to all my cookies. I feel like it helps to replace some of the chewier texture in the cookie. Then for our wet ingredients, we're going to add that browned butter once it's cooled for a little bit so it doesn't completely start to like melt our sugar. We're going to whisk that together with some brown sugar, and we're also going to add in a thickened flax egg, some maple syrup for that maple flavor, and also you can add in some maple extract here like I'm doing. That is technically optional, but I would recommend it if you want a strong maple flavor, plus some vanilla extract because everything is better with vanilla. Then we're going to add the wet ingredients to our dry ingredients and slowly mix them together. You are going to need to work this dough a little bit, but try not to over mix it. You can switch to your hands at some point and you basically just want to work it until all of the flour is absorbed. And this dough, obviously since our butter is still liquid, would not do very well in the oven right away. So we're going to pop this beautiful little dough ball in the fridge and let it cool for a minute. And while that's cooling, you can go ahead and make our sparkly sugar cookie coating just by making some cinnamon sugar and putting it in a small bowl. Once our dough has a chance to harden, you're going to take a cookie scoop or spoon to form all of your cookies. I'm using, I think, around 3 tablespoons per cookie here. You can just form them together, roll them into a little ball like so, and then transfer it and roll it in your cinnamon sugar. This gives the cookie the sparkly coating, and I also think it helps them spread a little less in the oven. And you only want to lightly press these cookies down. They are going to spread a little in the oven. Don't press them down all the way. Actually, I would say they spread a good amount. Like I would say they spread a lot in the oven. So, don't flatten them unless you want straight up pancakes. So you're gonna let your cookies set on the baking sheet and transfer and let them cool. And once they're cool completely, you can go ahead and make your glaze. For our glaze, we're combining some powdered sugar with melted vegan butter and maple syrup. I like adding the butter to this because it obviously adds more of a buttery flavor, but it also gives the icing like a firmer texture once the cookie's set. And if you want to, you could just add a little extra liquid until this is drizzleable and just use like a spoon to drizzle over the cookies. But I wanted to go the more aesthetic route, so I used a piping bag to top each cookie. These are the finished cookies and they are so delicious and perfect in my opinion. Next up, we're going with a classic and we're making some vegan gingerbread cookies. I feel like I've always had gingerbread cookies, but I haven't always necessarily appreciated them, but I really like this version of my cookies because I made them, maybe. I don't know. We're adding all of our dry ingredients together. We've got flour, a ton of spices. The full recipe is linked below. I like to go heavy on the spice because it's a gingerbread cookie. You're supposed to taste the ginger. I like feeling the warm, tingly spices in my mouth as I bite into the cookie. Once you whisk all that together, you can go ahead and combine the wet ingredients. So we're adding some softened butter and brown sugar to a bowl, and you're going to beat that together until combined. And then we'll add in molasses and a thickened flax egg. It's not a true gingerbread if you're not adding molasses. We'll also add some vanilla and then mix all of this together again until it is a thick and uniform consistency. Then we'll add our dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, and you can carefully mix it together with the mixer or just use a a spatula. I think the mixer is a little easier. Again, just be sure to stop once all the flour is absorbed. You don't want to overbeat your dough because then the cookies will get a little too chewy. Now this makes a good amount of dough, so I like to separate it in half and then flatten each half into a disc on some plastic wrap. And we're going to, again, place these in the fridge to let it chill because we don't want these cookies to spread a lot in the oven. We want our butter to be nice and cold once it goes in. So after the cookies have chilled for a bit, you can take one dough disc out of the fridge. You're going to flour it generously. Don't worry, all the flour will disappear during the cutting and baking process. And roll your cookie dough out till it's about between like 1/4 of an inch to like 1/3 of an inch thick. Then you can use whatever cookie cutters you like. Obviously, we're making gingerbread people today. We got some ladies and we got some guys, some he, she's, theys, whoever's, but they're looking cute with their little arms and their pants and their skirts. So you can make candy canes if you want, but then they'll, I guess, be gingerbread canes. After you cut your cookies, transfer them to a baking sheet. I like to use a silicone mat, especially for these. I think it helps your cookies get that crisp bottom and bake a little better. And then transfer to a cookie sheet and let cool completely. Once they're cooled, it's time to decorate. I'm using a simple icing sugar. You can see the blog post for the ingredients, just as powdered sugar and water. And this takes a bit of time to get it completely right, but practice makes perfect. And these gingerbread cookies are perfectly crisp on the edges, but a little soft and chewy on the inside, just the way I like them. Next up, we're making some chocolate chip pecan cookies. These are like if chocolate chip cookies got even better by adding some buttery pecans. We'll start again, noticing a theme here, by combining our butter and sugar. This time we're using softened vegan butter with a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of white sugar. The brown sugar adds a caramel flavor, but I also like the texture that the white sugar adds. Then we'll go ahead and add in our thickened flax egg and some vanilla extract. And you can use the beater again to mix this until it's nice and combined. You can kind of see here how the flax egg makes it a little gloopy and like egg-like in texture. Then we're going to add in our dry ingredients. We're just doing this all in one bowl this time. So we've got some flour, some leavening agents, and a little bit of cinnamon just because I love cinnamon, but if you're not a fan, you can leave it out. They'll still taste delicious. I do think it complements the pecan flavor. So mix the dough together and then we'll add in our chocolate chips or chocolate chunks and some chopped pecans. Make sure you're using raw pecans because if you're using toasted already, they'll burn a little in the oven. So you're just going to mix until your cookie dough is nice and uniform, and then you can go ahead and scoop out your balls. And for this recipe, we actually don't need to chill the dough. So after you scoop your cookie dough balls, you can roll them out and then place them on the baking tray. Just make sure there's enough space between all of them. And I like to top mine with a little extra chocolate chips and pecans. Hint, all of the food bloggers do this because they look prettier with a little extra something on top, because normally the ingredients will like sink into the dough. So if you really want aesthetic and attractive cookies, top them off with a little extra something. I also topped mine off with a little extra flaky salt because I love that salty sweet combination, and I just think the chocolate pecan salt buttery dough just works so perfectly together, and I love these cookies. Have I said that with every cookie? I don't know, but they're all good. Next up, I love these cookies. Wait, I just said it again, but I really do like these golden milk shortbread cookies. If you're looking for a holiday cookie that's maybe not traditional, maybe a little different, I highly suggest making this. So we're starting with some softened vegan butter, and I'm whipping this up first because I want it to be more spread out. And then these are shortbread cookies, so we're going to be using powdered sugar and a little vanilla extract and beat that together. Again, the powdered sugar makes it so the cookies melt in your mouth more than if you use a granulated sugar like cane sugar or brown sugar. So whip that all up until it's nice and fluffy. Then we're going to go ahead and add in our flour and our golden milk spices. So golden milk is also known as haldi doodh. It's an Indian drink made usually with like turmeric, ginger. I also like add cinnamon, black pepper, and cardamom. You can get the full spice list on the blog. We're going to mix that all up. The dough will look a little bit dry, but that's okay as long as it pinches together like this into a nice ball. Now these are shortbread cookies, so they have a higher fat content, so we do need to chill this cookie dough. You're going to transfer it again to some saran wrap, wrap it up into a nice disc, and set it in the fridge for a few hours, or you can just let it sit overnight. And then whenever you're ready to form and bake your cookies, place the dough disc on a floured baking tray. Make sure you flour the top of the cookie dough and the rolling pin as well. Then you're just going to roll it out until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, and then really You could do whatever you want for these cookies. I got this cute little cookie cutter that has these sort of like wavy scalloped edges that I thought was really nice, but you could just do circles, you could do squares, you could do gingerbread people if you want. But just transfer them to the baking sheet and then bake. The cookies shouldn't spread. They should just slightly puff up a little and maybe get a little golden, like slightly golden on the bottom, but that'd be very hard to see. You shouldn't get them till they're like golden brown, because that means you overbake them. Or just follow the recipe instructions, okay? Then you're going to let them set on the baking tray, transfer to a cooling rack, and set them aside to let them cool. And then I wanted to go with a nice little cardamom glaze because I'm obsessed with cardamom, and it just really makes the cookies feel like you got them from a bakery and like not like you just made them at home, which there's nothing wrong with homemade goods, but sometimes you just want to be a little fancier. So you're just whisking powdered sugar, plant-based milk, cardamom together, and then I like to use a spoon, as you can see here, to decorate half of the cookie. You can decorate all of the cookie, but there's something about just decorating half the cookie. It makes it feel fancier. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it just does. And then I topped my cookies off with some toasted coconut, which I feel like really complements the Indian inspiration to these cookie flavors. And it just also complements like the turmeric cardamom flavors together really well. I was really inspired by Indian spice blends and drinks this year because I also made these chocolate chai shortbread cookies. What can I say? I love spice, and I had a vision for both of these shortbread cookies, and I said I can't choose which one I want to make, so I guess we're making both. Again, so you're going to see a very similar base process. You're going to take softened butter and whip it up a little bit. This will make it easier to incorporate with the powdered sugar and vanilla in the next step. We're also adding a little bit of salt because I think when I filmed this, my butter wasn't salted, but you could also just buy salted butter if you don't want to add the salt. And now the only difference for these cookies, well, there's a few differences, but we're sifting our flour and cacao powder and chai spices in primarily because cacao powder loves to stick to itself. Okay, it's very, I don't know, it has some emotional attachment issues. So we need to sift it so it distributes evenly with the flour and into the dough. Otherwise, you just have little sad clumps of cacao powder, and that wouldn't end well. So as you can see, our dough is evenly distributed. We switch from the mixer to our hands to help combine it a little more. And then once all the flour is absorbed, again, transfer it to a sheet of plastic wrap. Mine's actually compostable, fun fact. And you're going to place it in the fridge to let it chill. Again, we're going to flour our baking cutting board, flour the dough, flour the rolling pin, roll it out to 1/4 inch thick. And today I wasn't really feeling the circles. I was like, what other shapes are there in the cookie world? How about a square? So instead I have these cookie squares that I'm just cracking myself up right now. I don't know if anyone else is gonna be laughing along with this voiceover, but you're gonna cut your cookies out, transfer them to the baking sheet, and bake. As you can see, they kind of get a little puffy, should stay about the same in color. You're gonna transfer them to a cooling rack, let them cool, and in the meantime, we can melt our chocolate using either a microwave or a double boiler. And again, I am just gonna stick to this hill and say that cookies for some reason look better when they're only glazed in half. You can disagree with me in the comments if you want. I just feel like it makes them look fancier. But I also went on the diagonal, which I feel like makes these square cookies look even fancier, you know? I don't know. I just like them like this. And this time I sprinkled mine with some turbinado sugar to add a little sparkle, but you could also use sprinkles if you wanted to make it a little bit more festive. And that concludes my roundup of holiday cookie recipes that I think you should make this holiday season. Leave a comment down below and tell me which one you're going to make first. Also, as a friendly reminder, all of the full recipes are linked in the description of this video. You can find them all on my blog with substitution notes, easy printable recipes, delicious, beautiful photos, you know, the whole works. So think of this as like the preview to the main event. I hope you all are having a lovely season, whatever holiday you celebrate, and I am wishing you all well. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Bye.